Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom. As many of you know, this week we commemorated the second anniversary of the massacre that took place in the Gaza envelope on October 7th, 2023. It was somewhat tempered by the fact that just a few days before that commemoration, 20 living hostages were returned to their families and their friends. I know many of us over the last 2 years have read the stories of the survivors, seen the videos. Many of the stories have become famous. Many of us read the book by Amir Tibon, and the story of his father's rescue of his family on Kibbutz Nachal Oz. Many of us are familiar with the story of the Bibas family from Kibbutz near Oz, but there are thousands of stories of regular people just trying to save themselves and their families that harrowing day. This morning, we are privileged to have one of those survivors, Barak Morag. Barak is 38 years old, married to Ziv, father to Gaia, a 9-year-old, and Itamar, a 5-year-old. He was born in Beersheba, and since 2015, shortly before the birth of their first daughter, they've been living and raising their children on kibbutz near Oz. I'd like to turn the bima over to Barak to share a few words about his story.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rabbi, for this incredible introduction. I'm very thrilled and excited to be here and talking to you. And it is a very emotional week, and it's an emotional roller coaster. Just last night, while I was speaking in a different synagogue, we received the news that one of our community members, who was a fallen hostage, has been returned during the night, which is good, sad news, but it's another progress to the end of this thing. So as the rabbi mentioned, I was living in the kibbutz Nir Oz with my wife and 2 kids. This kibbutz Nir Oz was the home of my wife's family, where they lived since 1969. And their parents raised 5 children. My wife was the youngest of the 5. Our kibbutz is a small community, very, very close to the border of the Gaza Strip, just a mile from the border. And we used to have a very calm, relaxed, simple and happy life of a small community, living no longer in a shared community as it used to be, but basically living together, raising our kids together, taking care of the elderly together, holidays together, many times the Shabbat dinners together. Whatever we can do is basically together and trying to be as a united community as possible. All of these things, not all of them, but many of those things have changed on October 7th, 2 years ago at 6:29 a.m., when our community and our kibbutz was very badly and very hardly attacked. The kibbutz has been penetrated by 300 to 500 armed terrorists, some of them wearing uniforms, some wearing civilian clothes, all of them carrying weapons. Later on, big groups of civilian looters, according to the inquiries, 500 to 700, again, penetrated, going back and forward between the kibbutz and the Gaza Strip, taking whatever they can, destroying whatever they can, burning houses, stealing cars, taking hostages. our defense was our first response team, like any other community, village, kibbutz in Israel. The size of it is depending on the size of the community. We had 7 to 8 or 8 men, depends on the count, but that was the protection we had. Whereas the rifles near the beds, they took them and went out to fight. They're supposed to hold the situation for 15 minutes until the IDF will arrive. They had to fight for more than 2 hours until all of them were either fallen or managed to somehow get back home. And the IDF only arrived at 1:30 p.m., 7 hours after the event began, and 30 minutes after the terrorists already left the kibbutz. And we were left alone to protect ourselves. Because of this situation where there was no real protection to our community besides those brave men who went out to fight, the terrorists were able to penetrate and break into 217 out of 223 houses in the kibbutz. They burnt down more than 100 houses, and 80% of the houses are uninhabitable at the moment. Even if they are not burnt, they are destroyed. During the events of that date, 41 of our members were murdered, 76 were taken hostages. It's a total of 117 out of 400 people. It's a little more than 1 to 4. And at this moment, 4 of our members are still held in captivity in Gaza. All of them are dead, but as the rabbi said, we are praying for them to be back home and to have a closure and a respectful funeral. Because of this freedom, this big advantage in numbers, time to do whatever they wanted, the terrorists did not only went to the houses and killed or taken people, they also destroyed many public buildings that were vacant in that morning, such as the dining room who was burnt and vandalized, kindergartens, preschools that were burnt and destroyed, and many things like trying to burn trees and whatever you can imagine, because they had the time to do whatever they wanted. I will try to not try. I will tell you my family story as my personal story during those hours as a part of or an example of way too many stories that took place in our community and in many other communities. And it's very important for me to know, and also thank you, Rabbi, for saying it, that I'm one of too many, and I'm not the only one. I'm here talking to you, but there are many people with stories similar to mine. And at that morning at 6:29 a.m., once the alarms started running for the first time, we did, as parents, what we always do in such events of alarms in the middle of the night out of nowhere. We very quickly get out of beds, grab our phones if possible, and run to the shelter, the safe room. Each of the houses has a little safe room shelter, bomb shelter. And of course, in our community, this is where the kids are sleeping, because we only have 12 to 15 seconds to protect ourselves in case of an alarm. So we grabbed our phones, ran to the room, to the kids' room, closed the door behind us, and we were hoping for the only thing we always hope in such cases, and it's that the kids will not wake up and we can go back to bed. That's what we wanted. But very quickly we understood that things are different. We had 7 or 8 alarms in a row, and we understood that we're going to stay quite a time in this room, and started planning what we're going to do, because usually in such situations, we would pack a suitcase, bring the car, travel somewhere distance, Mitzpe Ramon, Sde Boker, the Dead Sea, wait there to see what is going on and decide if we're going to stay for a few days or come back home. Lucky for me and for my family, because of there were many alarms, I didn't go to bring the car. And just a few minutes later, before 7 a.m., one of our friends sent a voice message saying that he sees terrorists walking around the kibbutz. They're carrying weapons and they're dressed in uniforms similar to the IDF soldiers, so we will not be confused. And please lock yourselves in. Any of you who had to spend time in one of those home shelters knows that they will probably protect you from rockets. Of course, the rockets from Gaza, not the big rockets from Iran. It's a different story. They will protect you from fire if the door is closed, but they will not protect you from two things. The doors are not bulletproof, and the doors cannot be locked. You can close it, but it can be opened from the outside because it's meant for the rescue teams to come in. And the only difference between people like me standing here talking to you to people who will never be able to speak to you is if they could or couldn't open their door. Lucky for me and for us, my wife was smart enough to install a bolt lock on the inside of the safe room's door a few years ago. Why she did it, I don't know, but she did it because one of our friends was offering those things that he built by his own. And it's a crazy story, but after a long process of designing those, he came up with a solution that he found as the best, offered whoever wanted to get those, and 9 families installed those locks. 9 families were saved thanks to those locks, and it's a little more than 50 people in total. So we locked ourselves in and kept waiting. Lucky for us, the kids were still sleeping, so we could think what to do. And the time just passes by. We start getting information from other places, start getting messages from friends of us that they see here fight with terrorists in their homes. And we had nothing to do but to wait. The kids woke up at around 8 or 8:30, and it's completely dark because the shelter windows are closed and sealed. The door is closed, and we have no electricity as they destroyed both the lines and the generator while penetrating the kibbutz. And when the kids woke up, of course, they started asking questions. What is going on? What we're going to do? And like we always do, we promised them that we are keeping them safe. We are waiting for the IDF to arrive, and we will get out of there. And the time kept moving, and the kids, lucky for us, kept it calm and relaxed. They didn't ask for anything. We had no water, we had no food. Of course, we had no restrooms. They were using one of their toy boxes. And the noises and the sounds that we hear around us got closer and closer. The gunfire sounds got closer. In the beginning, we tried convincing ourselves that it's maybe from the border because you hear it from distance, but we knew that it's in the kibbutz. And it got closer and bigger. And at some point, we started hearing very loud noises just behind us, cars driving, motorcycles, gunfire, yelling. And the worst was a very loud Arabic music played. As they feel they took over and they can do whatever they want. We didn't know what is going on. We only know that we hear a lot of people close to us. And only later, once we saw the videos, we understood that what we heard was 15 meters behind us was everything you probably saw in the Bibas family's house, who were our neighbors just the next row of houses. And all the things that happened there and what we documented was the noises and the yelling and the mess that we heard. At this stage, that when we understood that it's closer to us and it's basically inevitable and it's going to happen, it's just a matter of time, we had to make a decision of what we're going to do. And we took this decision without talking. We just looked in each other's eyes and we understood one thing. We are locked inside. This bolt is going to save us. Let's give it a chance and let's be with the kids. Let's not fight for the door. Let's be with the kids. So we split into. My wife, Ziv, took my daughter, Gaia. She was 7.5 back then, and climbed up to her top bunk bed, got under the blankets and covered themselves. And now I know that they were having a conversation. I didn't hear it on real time. They were having a conversation about how to behave, how to react, what to do and not what to do, what not to do in case they get to us. And I took my son, Itamar, he was less than 4 back then, got in his bed and laid on top of him, thinking that in case they shoot the door, which I knew they were already doing, let them hit me and not him. And when we just stayed in this situation, waiting and waiting for the time to arrive. I don't have much memories from these minutes. I only remember that I was staring in my son's big blue eyes, dripping sweat from my nose to his face, cold sweat of fear, trying not to shake. And I could see that the boy understands the situation. He knows that he is in risk. He knows that he must be quiet. Both of them were complete quiet and silent, not speaking, not asking for anything, just waiting. And this waiting kept for a while until 10 and 2 minutes in the morning. I knew it because I just looked at my phone. At this moment, I heard people running in our house. I heard them yelling in Arabic. I speak a little, something that means there are people inside. And in a second, you can hear the door handle going down, and they pulled the door back. But the door didn't open. The bolt held. I could understand that they froze for a moment because they did not understand how comes no one is holding the handle, but the door doesn't open. But immediately they started pulling the door back, up, down, left, right, trying to tear it from its frame. But it held. And then they started banging on the door very aggressively, kicking it, and talking to us in only English and Hebrew. Open the door. If you open the door, we will not kill you. If you come out, we will not kill you. If you will not open the door, we will blow up the house, trying to convince us to come out. And we, of course, did not react. We kept completely silent. And in the background, we could hear them destroying the house, doors banging, things falling and breaking, any kind of damage you could imagine they're doing to the house, looking for things to steal. We don't know what they took. We know what was there, and we never found. The most emotional thing they took was my wife's wedding and engagement rings that she didn't have. I'm sleeping with mine, so I have it. And we had a few pieces of gold who survived Auschwitz that my wife got from her father's aunt. She was supposed to make a new ring out of it with diamonds she got from her grandma. They were sisters who survived Auschwitz, her grandma and her aunt, so she had the diamonds and the gold, and it's gone. But my mom says it's a kapara on us, so it's a fair price. This situation lasted for 30 minutes. The entire time they tried to break the door, convincing us to come out, and we are not responding and keeping quiet. The only thing that happened in that room during this time was a short moment of all of us saying goodbye to each other, to the kids, trying to apologize and that we couldn't save them. And then at 10:30, they just left. As if they gave up and left. It was completely quiet, and we got out of bed. And I told my wife that I'm going to open the door, run quickly to the kitchen, get a knife so we'll have some kind of protection. And she told me, do not touch the door. Even if there is 1% chance that they did booby trap the house, don't touch the door. They are gone. Let it be. Let's wait. So I didn't touch the door. And in 5 minutes, they are back. Again, trying to break in, trying to call us out. This time, they only did it for 3 or 4 minutes. And then you could hear them spilling liquids outside the door. I guess it was gasoline. And immediately, you can hear the flames behind the door. They set the house on fire. And at this time, at 15 minutes to 11, 15 minutes hours into the event, our war changed, our battle changed from avoiding them to come in to surviving in a fire. Very quickly, smoke started getting into the room. And we started thinking, what can we do? We know that we cannot go out the door because there are flames on the other side. And we know that you have to go down to the floor in case of fire because the smoke goes up. So I took everyone and we gathered on the floor below the window. I understood at that moment that if we will ever be out of this house, it will be through the window. And I wanted us to be under the window because I knew that if they will somehow manage to open the window and shoot, because that's what I found they wanted us to do, to go to the window and then they get us, is that you shoot forward and not downward. So we sat below the window. So we are there, covering the kids' faces, trying to think what we're going to do, asking friends for help. And I did what probably any of you would do in this situation, because none of us has understood how bad things were. I took my phone and I called the fire department. Yeah, I know it's funny, yeah. Because I have a fire in my living room and I need help. So I called the fire department, and the fire department, again, no one knows how bad things are, did what they do. They sent me an SMS message. In this message, you have a link. You're supposed to share your location through that link. And then they send the trucks to that location. Of course, GPS connection is off. Of course, you can hardly send a normal message. So we're trying to figure out what to do, asking friends in other places to share our location via Google Maps, student links, or any kind of things you might imagine. And it lasted and lasted and lasted for a long time of me calling back and forward to the fire department. At some point, maybe 45 minutes later, 30 minutes, I don't know, I called them and I said, my location doesn't matter. Send the jets, spill water on the kibbutz. Everyone says the house is on fire. And a few minutes later, I had my last call with the fire department. It's about an hour into the fire. And the girl who answered my call, she was crying. And she told me, I'm sorry, we can't arrive. You have to figure it out. So again, we understand that we are alone and we have to do something to survive. During this entire time, on the floor, my kids kept falling asleep. I don't know if it was because of they inhaled so much smoke or it's just the defense mechanism of kids, but they kept falling asleep and we kept waking them up because, everyone knows that once someone is injured, they tell him, don't close your eyes, don't close your eyes. We all seen movies. So we kept waking them up. And every time they woke up, they were throwing up a very black vomit. Now I know it's the body's way to get rid of the smoke, but it was very scary in real time. And every time we wake them up, they are mad at us for waking them up and they fall asleep again. And this routine continues and continues. And after the last call with the fire department, we said, okay, we have to do something. The kids won't make it. And it was already around 12. And we set aside and we had a little chat. This time we were speaking and we said, we have two options. One option is stay like that and wait for almost definitely our death. We'll choke with the smoke. The second option is a little better. It's 50-50. Let's try to open the window, get some oxygen in, and maybe they will come to that window, maybe they will not. And the maybe not is much better than the definitely yes. So we decided to open a small crack in the window. And if you know those windows, they are made of two layers. The inner layer, the inside layer is a glass, and the outside layer is metal. And what we did is that everyone stayed on the same location and I was in charge of the window. I opened the glass and I opened a very small crack in the metal window that we tried to figure out if it's small enough to avoid them from sticking the rifles through it. And we figured out that something like 2 to 3 centimeters is the maximum we can do. So I had to hold the window with my both hands. One hand is holding the glass, the other hand, which back then I could lift, was holding the metal. And I cannot see nothing, I can only listen. And I was standing like this from 12:15 until 1:45. Every time I hear something suspicious, I slam these windows. And the situation with the kids sleeping, waking up, throwing up, kept going this entire time. And I was listening and listening, and at 1:45, I hear a big group of people walking outside our window. You can hear the footsteps of the people. So of course I was completely panicked. I slammed those windows and got down to the floor. And once you slam those windows, they make a very big noise. It's metal against metal. It shakes because it slides. And once this noise happened, I immediately heard 3 things from the other side of the window. The first thing was Hebrew yelling, "We are under fire, we are under fire, we are under fire," in Hebrew. So the first sign was Hebrew. The second sign was, the term they used was Yorim Alenu, which is a term they teach you in the IDF to use once you're attacked. And the third thing was a voice that yelled immediately after, "It's not fire, it's the window." And I recognized that voice. I immediately knew it's someone from the kibbutz, that I recognized his voice. So I did what I had to do. I stood up. I opened the first layer of the window. I didn't open the second one because I was too scared to see what is waiting for me from the other side. And I started yelling out, "We are here, we are safe, we need help, please rescue us." And from the other side, I got replies in Hebrew, "Open the window slowly with your hands where we can see it." Because they don't know who is yelling at them. They don't know what I'm holding there. Don't know who is with me. So I had to squeeze my hands, shove this heavy window very slowly, raise my hands in front of a group of maybe 15 soldiers in a circle like you guys, all of them aiming their weapons at me. I'm blinded because my eyes are with the sun and the laser beams. And the man who I recognized his voice immediately screamed, "Don't shoot, it's Barak." Lucky for me, no hand was shaking at the time. The second the window opened, the light got into the room, and my kids and my wife on the floor started yelling and crying. I didn't know why. I only asked them later, but there were two reasons. The first is that once the light got in, you could see that the room is full with black smoke all the way to something like 50 centimeters from the floor. So you could only breathe if you are lying on the floor. And the second thing is on the smoke, you could see all those laser beams from the soldiers' weapons, like in the spy movies, but they don't know who is aiming. Only me see that these are soldiers. They don't know who is aiming their weapons into that window. So the soldiers see me, and they run towards us to the window. They don't know who is holding me, so they run with the weapons first, get these weapons into the window, looking at us, see it's only me, one wife, and the kids. We are so glad to see them. We are finally saved. And then they tell us probably the worst thing they could say, "Okay, close the window and wait." The reason they said it is clear to me now because they only arrived to the kibbutz like 5 or 10 minutes prior to this. They don't know what is waiting for them in the bushes just nearby. They don't know if there are terrorists hiding. We don't know that the terrorists already left 40 minutes earlier. We could just go out and breathe. But we had nothing else to do but to close the window and wait. But after they left, after they cleared this area behind our house, I felt safer to open a bigger crack in the window. And I opened something like 15 to 20 centimeters. And I do believe that this is what made the difference. We won't survive for much longer with a small flow of air, and the bigger opening of the window allowed a much stronger flow of oxygen inside. And I think that's what saved us. But we had to wait for another hour. In this hour, I kept doing the same, listening and closing and listening, every time I hear something. And at a few minutes before 3 p.m., another group of soldiers arrived. This time they came to take us out. So we opened the window after they said a specific code word they were supposed to say. I helped my kids and my wife to get out. I climbed myself out. We spent about 2 minutes out, a minute or two outside our window. It felt like forever for two reasons. First is my daughter, she couldn't stand on her legs. She was so exhausted, and they had to give her some kind of concentrated sugar drink just so she can stand up. And my son, he just disappeared. We didn't find him. We were looking for him probably for, again, 30 seconds, but it felt forever. And we found him just a few meters behind us, playing with his friends, Ariel, Biba's toys. 4-year-old boy, get out, sees his friend's toys, he just go out to play. So we had to pick up the kids and run to a shelter, a public shelter where they kept all the survivors. And we did have the time. I cannot show it to you now because it's Shabbat, but we did have the time to take one last picture of the house we came out from. And we have this picture with the flames on the roof, the smoke to the sky. But we are out. And we ran to this shelter. And in this shelter, we stayed for more than 24 hours until the day after. And in this shelter, a few things happened that are very important to me. I got to see two sides of a coin. One is a happy side, is meeting everyone who arrived to this shelter. Alive, survived, is a miracle. But only there I realized how many people are missing, how many people will never arrive, how many people that were asking for help earlier the day, and they're just not there. And it was hard. But we made it out, and we started our progress. I do want to take 2-3 minutes to tell you about my wife's family because it's also a very big part of our story. And as I said, my wife's family lived in the kibbutz. The parents since 1969, 5 kids, but only my wife lived in the kibbutz. On that day, we knew who is in the house. My father-in-law David was in the house, and my brother-in-law, the oldest brother Tal, was in the house. The mother-in-law Bracha was luckily for us abroad. And we tried to be in touch with them the entire day, but we just couldn't. They didn't answer any kind of message, phone call, whatever we tried to do, and we had no idea what is going on with them. And only thing we know is from people passed by the house is their house is on fire and there is no one in the house. The day after, in the evening of October 8th, the IDF informed us that both my father-in-law David and my brother-in-law Tal were taking hostages to Gaza. They were considered to be missing because there was no documentation of them being taken, but both of their phones were signaling from the Gaza Strip. So the decision was that they are taking with their phones. And we got into this new thing called the hostage families. We were part of this thing for 1 month until November 8th. In November 8th, while we were still in Eilat in the hotels, someone came to me and asked me to bring my wife to the office. In this office, there were IDF officer and police officer waiting for us. And they told us that after a long project, a long work done by the Israeli Antiquity Authority in the burnt houses of the kibbutz, the archaeologists could recover some body remains of both David and Tal and extract the DNA. And both of them were actually murdered on the day of the events, and their bodies were burnt with the house. It's a crazy thing to say, but back then we were almost lucky to have a funeral. Some of our friends still didn't get to have their funerals 2 years later. And we got a closure. And we know what happened, more or less. So at least we have that. And we lived as a community in Eilat for 3 months. Only 3 months, you know, some of the communities lived for a year in the hotels because our community was very strong, very united, and were able to come up with a solution to the government before someone even thought about it, to move us to apartments that are built for long-term rentals in different locations in a city. And we had the contractors and the governments sit together and come up with the technical details. And on January 1st, 24, less than 3 months after the event, we already moved to 150 apartments in the same project in the city of Kiryat Gat. We came up to those apartments that were waiting for us. And that's a very big thing that I will always be thankful for. Waited for us in a situation that you can just come and live. We had everything that you can imagine that you need there for people who lost everything just 3 months before, from beds ready to sleep in, toys for the kids, food in the refrigerators, everything you can imagine was waiting for us there. And it's all thanks to a lot of good people all over the world, the people of Israel, and of course, the incredible Jewish community of the United States, who helped a lot since the beginning and until today. And we still live in those apartments in Kiryat Gat, most of us. 85% of the community moved there to begin with. Some people are now starting to return to the kibbutz. Not many houses are in a situation you can live in, but people started returning. And we started destroying some of the buildings. We were waiting for the hostages to return. We had one thing that it was a red line. You do not destroy any house of a hostage before he gets the opportunity to see it. So lately, some of the houses began with destruction, some of the rebuilding, and some people returned. The rest of the people who want to return will return in the coming year or year and a half, I guess, as the construction is ongoing. But also many of us, and this is also me and my family, decided that unfortunately we cannot do it, we cannot return. The traumas, the memories, the fear of the things that might happen again, the sounds, the attempts to avoid our kids from waking up in the middle of the night for alarms again. And we decided that we just don't want to do it. And I guess that if I didn't have the kids, I was already back there, but with the kids I'm responsible for, I feel like I cannot do it. And many of us feel so. And also as part of being a strong community and understanding that this split is unavoidable, we support both ways of rebuilding and also finding a new path. And 50 households in the same situation as us, mostly families with kids, decided that the most important thing is the people and the community and not the location. And we decided that what is most important for us is to stay together. And we created a group that is called, surprisingly, Staying Together. And we went out to look for a place that will be suitable for us. And again, with the great help of good people, we found another kibbutz in Israel who is willing to accept all of us together. They have the place we can build our new houses in, the lands that was supposed to be for their children. Then they said, you can have it, build the houses, and we will create new programs, new plans for extra lands for the kids, for their kids to live in. And hopefully we'll be able to move there within 1.5 to 2 years. Of course, it's not that easy. We have the place, we have the people willing to do it, we have the people who want to do it. But of course, like everything, it's all about the money. And it's a big project, it's a very expensive project. And we asked for assistance from the government. The first reply we got was that we will get new houses, but they will be in the Oz. And if you don't want to go there, then you will have to find out the way to do it on your own. Eventually, we got not in the middle, but we got from the government discount for the lands, which are very expensive in this region. And so it's also a big help. And we started this project, and we understood that to allow all the families to be able to take part of this project, no matter what their personal situation is, that we have to, again, and it's very hard to do it, ask for help. So like every good Israeli that needs help, we got on the first flight to New York and went to meet very good people. And we were lucky and graceful, and we were able to collect almost all the money, to recruit almost all the money we needed for this project, which is tens of millions of dollars from very good people who helped us along the way. And it allows each family to get a part of the project from this NPO, and the rest the family will have to cover by itself, but it allows all the families to be part of this project. And hopefully within the next 2 years, it will be built and done, and we will be able to move, and both part of our community will be able to restart their lives, if it's back in the Oz, or if it's with new people that are standing in line to come and live there, or in a new community, but together within it. And it's almost done. And I do want to use this opportunity, and it's always it's the hardest part for me everywhere I speak. It's even harder than sharing my personal story. If any of you feels like, and I'm speaking on my behalf, I'm not representing anyone here, not the kibbutz, not the NPO, nothing. If any of you feels like you want to somehow help this project, so it's Shabbat now, but we have, for after Shabbat, we have little flyers with the QR you can scan, you can read about it. And if you want, you can make a small donation. It's not for me, it's for the project. It's for a future education for the kids, for also the continuous therapy that the kids require, and they will not receive it from the government forever, as we understand. So we're trying to do whatever we can to create this future. And if you want to, we can leave some of those flyers here for any of you, and we will be thankful forever. And if not, just listening and coming here is more than plenty. And I want to thank you everyone for listening. And please feel free to share my story with everyone you want, because this is why I came to the United States for. This is why I'm speaking every day in different locations, just for people who will be able to hear from firsthand and later share this story forward. I want people to know what happened. I want people to not forget about the community of Nir Oz and my family story, because I learned from my grandmother, who sat down and told her Holocaust story to the Steven Spielberg's project, that is the most important thing I can do. And that's my mission in the world, that everyone will know what happened and everyone will remember. So thank you very much. And Shabbat Shalom. And we can still say Shana Tova. And thank you very much, everyone. Yeah.